Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. Well, we had an interesting day today. Did a lot of work reconstructing another crime scene. Was doing some control tests today for on Maggie and setting up that scenario and finished it and have sent all the new created video to Chris, so he's working on that. But before we get into the show tonight, as always, anyone new to the channel, respect the mods, respect families, and respect each other, and enjoy your time here. I'll be going over some of the things that I was able to do today, and but before that, as always, for just a brief introduction of who I am. We'll get that done, and then we'll get into the show. I'm Steve. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, had 20 years of service. During those 20 years, I started my career off in the jail, went on the road, and went into investigations. During those 20 years, I had all different types of training from a sniper, SWAT, to becoming a state certified crime scene technician, which helped my investigative career. And I've handled all different types of cases, from thefts, burglaries to homicides. And when I retired, I found the true crime world here on the internet and decided to become as good an ambassador for law enforcement as I could, so that I can share my experiences and perhaps let people see how law enforcement thinks about certain things and how we approach things, so that we can all have a great impact together. And I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Hey, I see some friends in here already. I'll go through the list and we'll get with them. All right, let's see who all popped in here early today. Let's see, got Fuza, Jocelyn, Verbal Judo, good to see you. Chelsea. Let's see. Let me get over here and see if I can figure out how to work this there buttons on this thing. Dave, good to see you, sir. And once again, it's Mitzi, Pigeon Mac, Granny, Grammy Nene. It's a great name, Grammy. Casey Ann, Purdue RN, good to see you. Let's see, Dog Defender, excellent. All right. As always, I appreciate your interest with checking on Mrs. Steve. She is healing up. She got her first, I take cast off, and she's in a splint now. She's got, I think, like another 4 weeks. Then we'll see if the surgery was successful. And hopefully it is. It's been quite painful for her, and she gets some zingers and stuff, but she's doing well. Thank y'all for your concern. All right, Mary L. 12. All right. Some of the things I did today, as we were doing some testing, I have another Manny that I shot today. This is Manny the female, spelled IE, that represents some of the testing I did on trying to recreate the angle. I had found a diagram of the injuries. I think it was on News Nation, and that helped me recreate the gunshot wounds on Paul. And then they also had a diagram of the injuries to Maggie. And so from that, I was able to recreate this, as you'll see when you look, and as Chris finishes up with the videos, of reconstructing the angle and the shot and the, and I shot ballistic gelatin once again, and that was infused with the synthetic blood. And it was quite revealing. It did exactly as I expected. It created the blood pattern and blood spatter that you normally see with high velocity gunshot wounds. And so we'll have that out probably sometime this weekend. I don't know what Chris's schedule is for the finishing product on that. And then, but like I said, I was trying to meet that the same angle as they said that the final and fatal shot would have been on Maggie, that would have entered the cranial vault from the top of her head and penetrated her cheek. And so I was able to create that angle and recreate it with what I think was the shot from the position of what would have been the normal approach of her lying from face down and towards the dog kennels, and where those strings of casings were found, what would have been the natural point of attack from the shooter's perspective. And after she's down, what would have been his approach and what would have been the final shot. And so I took all that into consideration and was able to recreate that and to what is possible. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of different ways that it could have occurred. But with that blood spatter, and I had on my white Yeti suit, of course, and I was able to go up there and do everything that or try to replicate some of the situation and some of the testimony that has been alluded to, and or really it was the interviews that was made by Mr. Murdoch when the law enforcement first showed or showed up, and he advised that he'd went over and checked their pulse and had looked at both of them. And so I went and I kneeled down on Maggie's and to see what type of transfers might to have occurred if you had kneeled down in a situation where you are checking someone's pulse. And I did that for the reasoning of trying to test and recreate what type of blood transfer might have been made to Alex. And so tonight's show, which is at 8 o'clock tonight, about 20 hours from now, I will be presenting that information, because in the morning when I get up, I'm going to start luminoling all my clothing I had on during these tests, and analyzing the blood pattern analysis, and also be taking pictures and stuff. So we'll see the CSI stuff tonight. I'll be doing everything from the gunshot residue to the tattooing, and that occurred from the first shot that Paul took to his chest, all the way to the final shot of both Maggie, and analyzing that clothing and trying to give y'all a little bit of heads up of what's going to be on tonight's show. And I appreciate everyone's support that's here tonight, and looking forward to doing all this today earlier and the tomorrow morning, or this morning, in just a few hours. And it's going to be a very interesting thing, because I don't know exactly what all is going to show up, because I haven't analyzed the clothing that closely at this point. Haven't went over it with a magnifying glass. Haven't sprayed any luminol on any of the clothing or my little white booties that I wore. And also to see, as I walk through the crime scene reconstruction, what type of possible blood that I may have stepped in, and what the bottom of those booties will look like. So all that will be interesting, and y'all get to see, regardless of what the results are. I'll present them tonight. And let's see what we got here. All right. Let me go down through here. All right. Let me get caught back up, and then we'll go down through the chat here, make sure I'm not missing anybody. All right. There's Purdue RN again. I got up to there. And so Dog Defender, KCN. Yes, we are all doing well. Loco Moco, I'm glad you're here. Jeff, good to see you. All right. Here's a question. What is your take on the gunshot residue found on the jacket? Do you think it's important or does it really matter? Being a hunter, and I, and as I've said before, and which the expert verified today, that the gunshot residue is going to be there on any article or a firearm until it's removed. It's different for human, but on human skin, but on articles such as weapons, coats, things that don't shed or that are, unless they're clean, it stays there. And as she testified to today, there's no time that it'll be there forever. And so, and that's the problem that I have with gunshot residue. Now, have I taken gunshot residue from, in certain cases? Yes. Generally, it was on when there was self-harm, and on those cases, but gunshot residue is so easy to be transferred. Mrs. Steve and I today were talking that she probably has as much gunshot residue on her hands as I do because we drive the same vehicles. She washes and my clothing with her clothing. And so there's gunshot residue everywhere, and at my house. And I imagine it would be the same for a lot of people across the country, that there's hunters involved or people that goes to gun ranges and handles guns daily, and even law enforcement officers. So I don't have a lot of confidence in gunshot residue because it's so easy to explain away. And so I don't have a lot of confidence that if that's all they have. Poor Manny. Yes. Trying to replicate this shot, which I was able to do today. From the diagram that I was looking at when I committed to making this shot, was slightly off center and from the back top of the head at a downward angle and supposed to be exiting the cheek area. And so I was able to replicate that relatively well. Went back and looked at the diagram again, maybe off about an inch, but otherwise, like I said, the ballistic gelatin with the synthetic blood performed just like it's supposed to. And I'm looking forward to seeing whatever, how it luminols out by tomorrow. Yeah, poor Manny. All right, let's see what else we got here. Manny laying down their cranial matter for us. And Pigeon Mac, you and I are thinking exactly alike, because that was my exact process of why I'm going to stay with Manny, for the fact that you have a male spelling and a female exact spelling that I went with today. Thank you. And that's why I do these demos. And it's not saying that these demos that I'm committing to and creating are the only way it could have happened, or the correct angle. There's a lot of variables on it. I have very limited information what I'm working with, but the people that have those final numbers and those final angles, they'll have the exact, and they'll be able to replicate it exactly. So I may be off a few degrees here and there, or possibly, because I don't have all the data. If I had, I could create it exactly what the people that hopefully they brought into the case to assist them, and recreating the scene. If there was anything that needed to be recreated, which we don't know, I'm sure there's going to be some experts explaining some of the blood pattern analysis and some of the angles. So I'm looking forward to that testimony. Okay, Dave said, just when you think the Idaho case can't get any more bizarre. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, something I know they were talking about that he had been fired and some of that information, but I'm sure there's some other information because you know you're talking about 4 homicides out there. Let's see here. Unabashedly, Catering. Your demo of Paul's shooting was amazing. So thank you. I worked hard on that, and like I said, there may be some variables on it that I'm unaware of, and I'm looking forward to see how close I was, or if I was dead wrong. You know, like I said, we're only working on little hints of here and there, but the principles are correct, and I'm hoping that the angles were correct from my deductions. Purdue RN, Michelin Man suit. Yes, it's pretty close to the Michelin Man suit. Absolutely. I heard, yes, on Jeff says that he heard Maggie's cell phone was moving while Alex's vehicle was driving away. Then it stopped moving. Later, found her cell phone outside the main driveway on the other side of the road. And that's my understanding. And I'm, you know, it's not looking good for Alex. And so it's a tragedy that anyone would be put in such a situation or felt they were in such a situation that their only way out is to commit a double homicide. You know, it just makes no sense how people process and are so narcissistic and selfish and would commit such a horrible crime. There's some evil people out there that just absolutely, just boggles the mind. Let's see there. Let's see here. Mr. Steve, Michelle Walks in the UK took a page from your book and was recreating the Nicola case in the UK missing while walking her dog. Learned so much about the case because of demo. Thank you. Excellent. Michelle Walks. I think, is she the one that walks around with the 2 bird dogs? I like her voice. She has a very interesting voice. Thank you, Madison Stevens, that you appreciate the recreation work. And hopefully it's fairly accurate. What I want to know is how AM said he checked for pulses on Maggie and Paul, yet not an ounce of blood on him. Was another lie by him. And like I said, I kneeled down into the blood spatter today on Maggie's. I didn't on Paul's, but I did on Maggie's. And I did that for a reason. On Paul's, there would have been so much blood transfer that it would have been noticeable. And you would, if you kneel down in what would have been anywhere near his head injury, that gunshot wound that was so catastrophic, that there should have and would have probably been a massive amount of blood there. With the gunshot wound that I did on Maggie was minimal, although there's still, and I was only working with a partial amount. You know, I'm not using a full capacity of what the cranial vault can hold as far as amount of blood. So I'm working with a probably maybe 1/10 of what the volume of the cranial vault would be as far as synthetic blood, and made that shot. And it's still substantial, but it was minimum at a minimum of amount of blood that was blood spatter. And so I knelt down in that, and I'm interested in how much blood transfer there would be with the least amount of blood exposed. And if there's blood transfer and you nailed into it with the least amount of blood, then there would be, if there was maximum amount of blood in the area and through that blood pattern and through the blood spatter, and there's passive pools of blood, then if he knelt down in them, of course, it would be obvious. And so I went to the extreme that if there is, because it's easy to see when there's a lot of blood. It's not so easy to see when you're just working with minimum blood spatter, and you're talking about high velocity blood droplets that are the size of heads of pins and smaller. I mean, even with the 300 blackout today, when I recreated that headshot, it turned into a mist once again, just like it's supposed to. And there's blood droplets all the way from the size of a nickel to the size of a pinhead and smaller to the mist. And we'll see what type of transfers occurred. And like I said, I haven't analyzed them. They'll be happening in the next few hours. All right. Bill, you're amazing. I'll definitely be there tomorrow for that. Fascinating. Absolutely. I hope you make it. And I absolutely hope that it is revealing and people have a better understanding of what happens at a crime scene, and that if you're ever, as the true crime world, we have such a opportunity to educate ourselves, and CSI has put us on a path that we, everyone believes that it's really easy for to solve this stuff and to recover evidence. It's not. It's extremely difficult, and sometimes, even on the recreation and processing these scenes, and it takes me several hours to set up a scene, to make that one shot, and then go in and process just a small part of it. Of that scene takes 4, 5, 6 hours, and which used to, with a 5-man team, we could go in and process a house. Generally, it took us 12 to 24 hours to process a house if it was just limited area, 1 or 2 rooms. And if it was multiple victims, then of course you're there for a long time. Let's see here. Let's see here. I heard that there was blood of Maggie on AM's white shirt, and there possibly was, and that depends on what type of blood. I went into that last night. If there's any blood on him, and it's a type of blood that's a transfer, such as if you take and you check the pulse and then you touch your shirt, there's a obvious opportunity for you to have some type of transfer smear, and it looks like that. I mean, it's just like anyone can do now. You can go out there and you've seen stains or paint stains, and you've touched your fingers and swiped across something, and you have a linear transfer, and that's one type of blood stain and transfer. But if it's of the make of a high velocity blood stain, and I'm talking about a very small drop that came from the kinetic energy that the gunshot caused, and you're that close to the victim, and you get those small particles and those small droplets of high velocity blood spatter that only occurs, or generally only occurs, with gunshots, that means you were there at the moment the gun was fired. Now, if they recovered that type of blood from his shirt, it's lights out, it's over. But now, if it's some simple type of where he touched and then touched his shirt, and it's that type of transfer, then of course that's something they can explain. But if it's those high velocity blood drops, that is were discovered on his shirt, then of course it's over. Yeah. I've only had bad interaction with law enforcement in the past, but Mr. Steve is making me regain faith that there are LE out there who deeply care about people's safety and justice for victims. And there is. The majority of officers really do try to, that they take in that oath seriously. That, you know, did I see bad officers? Absolutely. I saw them throw their careers away and go off serve time. Absolutely idiots. And but the majority of officers are in it for the right reason. Hey, Steve, I've never asked this before. Do you have a favorite firearm? Yes, loaded. No, but no, any firearm that any individual has that possesses it, has confidence um, uh, and wishes to be armed, I'm absolutely for it. I'm not against anyone being disarmed other than criminals, but all the law abiding, hardworking citizens, I believe in guns and I don't fear guns at all. Yes, this one here is the one, the final shot for Maggie that uh, from the diagram I saw, I don't know how accurate it was, from the back of the head out the cheek, which may have or may not have I don't know how accurate it is, but it's all the information I had, and I was able to recreate that. All right. Um, I did some gun shooting drills today for Chris to show the ability of the AR platform. I did 3 test groupings. I shot 3 shots. Um, uh, First 3 shots on target 1 was about 1 second in between each of the shots. The second shot on target 2 was a 3-shot group that was a little bit faster. I think I fired 3 shots in probably a second and a half. And then the final group, I shot from the hip. The first target on target 1, target 2 was from the shoulder. The final target on target 3 was from the hip with the 300 blackout. And I shot about as fast as I can with accuracy. And it's probably somewhere around a second, put 3 rounds down range in a decent group. So you'll be able to see those probably. I don't know if Chris is going to put them out this weekend or at some point we'll put those out there. Oh no, no, I'm not anywhere. I'm not bad now. I knew some bad men and I worked with some bad men, but I'm not a bad man. And I know what you're talking about as far as being that. But I've seen my share of, and I've been there. I was very lucky to survive um, some of my encounters. Let's see, trying to get caught up down through here. Uh, how many shells in a shotgun? Would you have needed 2 guns for 2 people if you needed to shoot fast and not let one get away? No, you. I've got a shotgun over in the corner. I think that holds 7. Um, and but some of them, you know, some shotguns I think with extended magazines get all the way up to 9, and some shotguns are out there now that have magazines to them, and extended magazines, sort of like the AR magazines, as far as rifle magazines, um, and so you know they can hold 20 rounds. But no, it's you wouldn't need to have 2 guns. Purdue RN, from what you heard, was motive money? Yes, from what I've from the way that, and I wish, you know, the jury pretty well should have an understanding now that Alex was in financial trouble. I mean, um, I'll be glad when we get away from the financial part of it and get into the motives there. If that's what they were trying to do, they've established that Alex was in financial hardships and he was scamming and stealing and misappropriating funds. We get it. So let's get into the other stuff now. And that's what I'm hoping they will, because, you know, there's no need to just keep kicking that horse. You know, it's over. We know that you know, if that's what the prosecution is wanting to do, they've done it. Um, it's not gory. If not, just how much blood would the shooter actually have on them? I'll have some clue to that. When I shot the synthetic blood on Manny, on this one, that destroyed the cranial vault that Chris released the other day. Um, the blood spatter that's on my pants leg and from my waist down was extensive, and you'll be able to see that on tonight's show. So you'll see, and I was only as far as the quantity of synthetic blood I was using was probably maybe 1/4 of a cup of synthetic blood. And so, and there's a lot more than 1/4 of a cup in the cranial vault. And so, and with such a devastating and catastrophic gunshot wound to the head, there would have been substantial coverage because that cloud, like I said, when all that kinetic energy is released, you're talking between 3,000 and 4,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy, and it is devastating. All right. I can get caught up, guys. Just jumping down through here, not trying to miss anybody. Oh, look at here. Madison Stevens, $20 Canadian super sticker. Thank you for your support. Appreciate that. There's the blue light. Mrs. Steve normally takes care of this. She loves that blue light. Thank you very much. That supports us on so many different levels and allows us to go out there and help us on work with these families on the cold cases. And I spoke to Larry today, and he's going to fly into Texas, and I'm going to meet him out there at some point. But he's finalizing some plans, and that's where we're going to meet in Dallas. Okay, so it's Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer, her two. Oh, okay, okay. So that is her with those dogs. Let's see here. Oh man, uh, somebody talking about coming to get the dogs. Oh, Debbie Riddle. Okay. Thank you for all you do and all you've done in your career, sir. It was an absolute honor. And thank you for your contribution. It means a lot. Um, it was an honor to serve. And like I said, I always enjoyed, and, you know, it's a way. I've always been a hunter in my life, and law enforcement, you're going out there hunting bad guys. And I enjoyed it. And um, it is something that certain people are meant to do, and I believe I was meant to do it. And you know, I wasn't the best at it, I don't guess, but I arrested several thousand people in my career, and you know, so I hope I had a good impact. That's all you can do is hope that your impact was positive. Uh oh, here. unabashedly care and help towards your continued investigation. Thank you. That it means a lot. That's I'm absolutely all of that. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Oh yeah, can't cheat you out of your blue light there now. Thank you. Let's see here. Oh, Dave, Pigeon, you and I are just going to have to stay out of the Waffle House. We'll all get together. I'm gonna. Dave about has convinced me to go on a Waffle House tour. That's what I'm gonna name it one of these days. Waffle House tour. I'm assuming weather elements would affect some of the outcomes, wind, rain. Um, Not so much with blood, especially with some of the presumptive tests and the transfers, because it is so with luminol. I think it's like 1 in 50,000 parts or 30,000 parts, and you can dilute that a lot and still find a reaction with luminol. So not so much with some of the testing. Yes, absolutely. You know, it means a lot to us. Like I said, I wouldn't be able to travel, and these families, whenever you talk to them, that what we work on their cases and create whatever we can to generate leads the best we can. Everything from productions of content, bringing recognition to their uh, loved ones that they lost, to creating websites. We've got 2 websites that we're about to kick off, and then also pays for us going up there. We've got a scientist coming into Texas that is going to be bringing some high-tech equipment to do some searches in Texas, and which of course we don't have to buy the equipment. They're donating that, and seeing these people that have these skill sets that are willing to travel across the country to do that and use their equipment, but still we have to get them there. And that's what this is for. And absolutely it's humbling, and we appreciate it. It's something that we couldn't do without y'all's help. Thank you. Don Burt, if he did this, blood spatter would be all over his body, correct? Yes, there should have been, especially with that shotgun and the, you know, that catastrophic gunshot wound to the head. And as if you get a chance, go over to the Mob Crew, Chris's show, and he has I think like a 4-minute show or a short where you can go watch, and you'll see the shot that I did to the mannequin's head, and with the ballistic gelatin that was infused with the synthetic blood. And like I said, tonight you'll be able to see what that transfer looks like, because it has, there's probably thousands of blood droplets from that mist that was created from all that muzzle energy when it struck and with the head and absolutely destroyed the cranial vault. It is extremely destructive. There's nothing good about it, and I've seen a lot of people that have suffered those types of injuries, and it's absolutely amazing. Curious if the shotgun Alex had in his hand when law enforcement arrived is a firearm used in this crime, and he used it as a defense strategy to steer away from the crime. If so, there should be some high velocity human blood spatter. Reason being is, of course, I don't know what type of farm that they had, and don't know if they hunted certain animals, because you can get blood spatter from any animal that you shoot at close quarter. And so if it's certain types of blood and it's non-human, of course, that blood spatter means nothing. But if it's human high velocity blood spatter, is a totally different story. Let's see. And this is very possible that two guns to make law enforcement thinks two different people. To throw law enforcement off the scent, yes, that's very possible. Absolutely. Yes, the number of shells in a shotgun depends if the plugs are removed or not. And for people that don't know that, there's certain types of hunting that shotguns have to have a plug in them so that the shotgun can only hold 3 shells, or that's the way it's here in Georgia. And for bird hunting. Now, I think you can have 5 shells for deer hunting, but for bird hunting, it's only 3. And shotguns have capacities up to, like I said, multiples, 7, 8, 9. I think most of the law enforcement shotguns that we carried generally held 7 to rounds, and of the models back then. I don't know what they have now. And a lot of departments have gone away from the shotgun, which back when I came through law enforcement, every car basically has a shotgun in it. Now they've gone to patrol rifles due to the changing of the mindset of law enforcement. And both of them serve a purpose. Both of them serve a purpose. Patrol rifle or the shotgun. Um, the if the victim is face down in this position, then the angle, if she's already on the ground, incapacitated, and has suffered that injury, then simply standing overhead and shooting down to create the pass through from the back of the cranial vault through the brain and through the ballistic gelatin I shot and into the through the styrofoam and out the cheek, because like I said, they said it penetrated out the cheek. And so trying to line that up and make that shot, I was able to, and I was well pleased with that possibility. Let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of kinetic energy from a shotgun. Yes. Now, my recreation of this is that Maggie was struck multiple times from multiple angles. All the other angles and the gunshot trajectories through her and into her torso were probably survivable for a certain amount of time. And now it could have put her in shock and things, but they were survivable for a certain period of time. Generally speaking, when you do anything that disrupts the cranial vault and transfers all that bullet terminal ballistics and trajectory and energy, because once that bullet enters, there's a shock wave that accompanies that bullet. And as the body and the bullet's energy is transferred into the body, it is absolutely destructive and creates a temporary wound channel. And if you ever watch ballistic gelatin in slow motion, you'll see that there's almost a bubble formed. And that's a temporary cavity. And then, of course, it collapses back on itself. And but then you have just the permanent wound channel, which is substantially smaller, but that permanent channel is still destructive and is non-survivable typically when you do a headshot from any type of. Although I've seen people survive gunshot wounds to the head, but it's very rare. Yeah, we have anywhere from 100, and I'm very proud of that on Northern Watch. I'm glad that there's 100 people out there that enjoy, and I appreciate every one of them. Let's see. So, Pigeon Mac says she's ready for a Waffle House tour. Uh, Triple S says, I really need to hear the prosecution's theory of events. I think he's guilty, but I think they haven't done a very good job putting it all together. They have haphazardly jumped it from different types of experts and then bringing in lay persons and people that are, for whatever reason, from different aspects. And whatever their strategy is, it's not clear and well defined. And like I said, I don't know if that's just something due to the way that to work with the witnesses so that their work schedules aren't impacted. Possibly, I don't know, but it'd be hard sell to and a bad taste that to lose a case of this magnitude, and we have two victims that won't see justice for if that is the case. So hopefully that's not. I'm addicted to hash browns. Oh, y'all are wild. Um, in my opinion, the blood and water could prove possibly someone cleaned themselves up in the kennel, depending on the location. And that is true. It may very well be that. Or they were washing away bloody footprints that may have been on the surface. But even if they did that, um, it's still very possible that they would be um, what the naked eye wouldn't perceive as a good uh, transfer. And so hopefully they have that. And we don't know yet, but I will actually, that y'all mentioned that, I will do a bloody footprint transfer to concrete and wash it off and then luminol it. So that will be another test that we will do. No, there's some trace amount of blood, but not much blood on any of the clothing. You don't think he had time to change clothes, or if he had something over his clothes, he had on different clothes and he had an hour before? Or are you saying that you think he's innocent? No, I'm just saying that the gunshot residue is something I wouldn't put on it. Um, the When people lie and he says he's taken a nap and his phone has been turned off and he's 1,100 and something feet from his home when he's supposed to be napping, and he's in the background talking to two victims within minutes of their deaths, it's not a hard sell for me. Um, I, Once I was on a jury and I heard that basic, then the defense is going to have to overcome that of why. But no, I'm not. I'm more, you know, they had me at when his voice was in the background at the kennels within just minutes of their homicides. And so, no. They, when they're, when you're in Texas and they invite you to go look for rattlesnakes at night, decline? Absolutely. Yeah. And that's extremely possible that he took a shower somewhere. Um, I always thought that maybe he went to his mother's house to do that. I didn't know there was a caretaker there. So he had to take a shower prior to, or he washed off um, with the water hose completely, and packaged his clothing there, changed clothing. And if that is the case, that he totally washed there at the kennels, he had it pre-planned to the point that he brought clothing, extra clothing to get into and to travel to his mother's house immediately thereafter. We'll have to see where the all the vehicles and where they were activated at and what locations. And, you know, there's other means of travel on those properties other than just his vehicle. Was he aware of the OnStar systems? I don't know, but there's a lot of some of these people go to great lengths to conceal their guilt. If it was raining, was that what the tarp was for, laying on the ground and wait? No, I don't know. And we don't even know if the tarp, what part it played in it, or even if the raincoat played a part in it. We just don't know yet. Yeah, trying to catch up here, guys. Lifesavers. Bible group. Good to see you. I'm enjoying your morning watch shows and in my old motor home with coffee and diesel heater blazing. Great forensics. Thank you. I know he can't get into his head who could, but do you think if the other son was there, he would have taken him out also? He probably so. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the full story of what the relationships were, um, and for what he, you know, yeah. I mean, uh, it's absolutely amazing that he chose to do this act, and uh, you know, there's no way a rational person can think in that manner. You know, we like to think that we know exactly what's going through people's minds, but we don't. I mean, you're talking about madmen and psychopaths. Um, their thought processes. Um, you know, a lot of people say they can think like them, but no, I don't think so. Let's see. Do you have any idea of the progression of the shootings? I believe Paul was first for several reasons. Uh, one being that he was the bigger threat. Um, that if you are ever in that type of situation, and it is often the case that the largest, most, uh, the larger the threat, the higher in the rankings that you have to take them out for the fact that if you don't, and if this individual, if Paul was noted to have guns and kept guns close to him, then of course you have to make sure that he's unable to get to a firearm. I mean, if you know, if you're shooting a smaller or lesser threat and someone's able to get to a firearm, It just doesn't work out for bad guys. So most of the times they will take out the bigger threat, which would have been Paul, especially if he would have known about the location of any firearms, or was there one in the vehicle. But I think he was shot first, and then I believe Maggie, due to that the amount of shots, and they're not localized, and they're that they appear to be um, chaotic. They're not structured. Although really, even on Paul, you have two shots, one chest, one shoulder, over a distance, which isn't well structured either. But I would assume that he is the first one, and then Maggie would have been the second one. And another reason I would have thought that it would be the case is that with the AR platform, such as the 300 Blackout, if Maggie was first and the offender is shooting Maggie, and Maggie has at least 6 wounds in her, which you'll see from my demonstration, it doesn't take a lot of time to shoot a firearm 6 times, but it does take some time to shoot from 15 to 20 feet away, move up to the target, and shoot 3 more times. So that takes, maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds. And that would have given Paul time to have come out of the room. Doesn't mean that he came out of the room and he wasn't forced back into it by somebody with a shotgun. Don't know. But there's, I would think that if you were shooting Maggie first and you looked over your shoulder and you see Paul's out there and you have the rifle in hand, you would just turn and just fire and take out that threat then. So I think it's the other way. I think Paul was first, and then Maggie was second. We need to have a potluck nighttime breakfast buffet just for crime web. Oh my goodness. Lisa S. Yes, I believe the Snapchat video is the thing that will put the nail in the coffin for him. Yeah, people live on farms and things. And if you're planning a homicide and you know that, okay, this is what the steps need to create an alibi, that I have to be at a certain location doing a certain thing. And if I do this, then, and like I said, these people that commit these crimes, and they come up with this perfect plan, and which rarely works out. But it just amazes me. And look, keep up. I may be missing people. Oh, okay. Jill, $5. I love your content and your voice and manner are so soothing and trustworthy. Thank you. I'm honored by that and appreciate your support. It is awesome. What is with Alex naming his firearms with nicknames? That's just strange. Um, I'm trying to, there was it Daniel Boone that had old Betsy, um, or one of the old shows had where one of the main characters had his firearm man. Um, how will this trial be affected by the one juror that needs to leave early, like 2 weeks or so? Will they have a redo and get a new juror pool? How can they push the trial through because of one? Generally, they have alternative jurors that listen to all the testimony, and should certain things occur and a juror has to be excused for any types of situations such as sickness or some type of bad behavior, um, then they have the alternate jurors that will step in or still be available because they're and I don't know how South Carolina fills those slots, but generally there are some alternative jurors waiting in the wings that are sitting there listening to everything. And I think there was testimony somewhere that appeared with investigation that Maggie tried running away, and that may be possible. Or, like I said, uh, or did the mother instincts kicked in? Was she running away or was she running too? We don't know. The processing of the scene, um, seeing the direction she's facing, is not running away. She's facing whatever danger she had towards the location of where her son homicide occurred. It'd be another thing if turned away. And when I recreated the shot from the uh, on Maggie today, from that direction, of doing uh, the shooting from, I guess, 20, 30 feet away, then walking up and doing the final shot, um, that was natural for someone laying towards you. And if the diagram is correct, and that's the direction she's laying, is it possible that she was running away and injured and fell backwards towards um, the towards Paul? It is, but my first instinct is not that she was running away. The Rockaways. I struggle to accept that a 53-year-old opioid dependent overweight man could pull this off so cleanly in 15 minutes. I really think he had a helper. Um, it's possible. Like I said, uh, we don't know yet all the information. Just tuned in, wondering why Alice does not take polygraph if he is innocent. Um, I don't know if he took one, and even if he did, they wouldn't. You wouldn't be allowed to use it in court, and you can't even bring up the fact that he did take a polygraph or not in court. Um, it's just one of those things. You think we'll hear any more about the courthouse bomb threat? Um, no, you know, I'm sure that the news agencies will report it, but you won't hear anything from the law enforcement or the courts. Pigeon back, Daniel Boone was a man. Let's see, just that. Steve, possible experiment for in 15 minutes, could you shoot those shots, then change clothes and wash up and test negative for blood and GSR? You get to use a raincoat and a tarp. uh, I wouldn't have to. Um, uh, I understand about um, blood uh, and the dynamics. And so if you put yourself in certain positions, you'll have that blood transfer. So, no, I wouldn't have that situation. I can do it in probably a lot quicker than that. Let's see. And Sean, how you doing tonight? You on Richard Allen seen walking behind the interview on the same video, um, walking left to right in red hooded sweatshirt behind the interview. I'll have to look at that. I hadn't paid. I had heard that he was possibly at some of them. I have a 44 Magnum I call Derry Harriet. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Have I ever named a gun? Um, I don't think I have. I'm gonna have to start doing that. Uh, I'm trying to catch up, guys. Um, yeah, the state has been leading the witnesses almost every single question they ask. Why is there no objection to this? And the defense, you know, if they don't choose to object, I think I heard the judge telling them, you know, and mention that, you know, there's no objections. And which anytime a judge tell you that I'm not hearing any objections, that means let's object. I worked with a guy that left Georgia and went out to Texas and became a ranger. Uh, Jill, what time is your stream tonight? 8 o'clock. The normal time for tonight on Thursday night. I'm Canadian. I've never seen a gun, let alone named one. Oh, um, True Crime Web. Do hunting dog kennels normally have a dog wash to wash the mud off of dogs after hunting or ducks? All our hunting dogs, they were like farm dogs. We had some great back in the 60s and 70s. We had some really good bird dogs. And but no, I don't think we ever washed a dog in our life. Um, but I I don't own 1,700 acres like this family did either. So now the dogs that we have upstairs, Mrs. Steve routinely washes them. they, they are taken care of like not like dogs. Yes, Steve, you used to watch old One Bullet Barney and Andy, and actually, I have an Andy Griffith patrol car. I have a 1967 patrol car. I have to get some pictures of it. I hope he gets on the stand, but I don't see that happening. Um, you know, I just don't see that happening. Uh, Hold on here, Jocelyn. Fun fact: I'm related to Don Knox. I love Don Knox. Um, um, they were him and Andy Griffith was a great comedy team. Hold on here. Let me get back up there. Let's see here. Madison, Mr. Steve, if Alex washed himself off at the dog kennel, would there be a lot of blood left behind in the cracks in the walls? Yes. The all the trace and any place that this contaminated water would have stood and dried or whatever, you would still have the traces of blood, and that would react with any type of presumptive test. Now, if they tested that, I don't know. Have they gone back and used luminol or some other type of presumptive test? I don't know yet. I'm waiting. And I'm sure that someone went in there and recreated some parts of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing that testimony. Oh yeah, some dogs. Ava says that we had kennels nearly exactly like Alice's. We'd wash down the dogs when filling their containers for water, more for fun, I suppose, but we did it regularly as long as it wasn't snowing. Yes, and some dogs love water. Absolutely, they're water dogs. Sean, I believe Richard Allen was talking liberty long before the crime. Very possible. I I, I agree with you. That's a very big possibility. Any new news on Kohberger other than the media trying to manipulate the Idaho Supreme Court into releasing the gag order? Um, you know, there's some testimony out now, or not testimony, but about him being fired from the Washington State University, and that he hated women. Well, anytime anyone, which isn't news to me, if anyone goes in and commits three homicides or four homicides, three of them against women, in the manner that he did, yes, he does not have any respect for women, and is absolutely, if he is the one that is responsible for those homicides, he deserves everything possible that he could possibly get. Thank you, Verbal Judo, about I do miss a lot of stuff because I just scan through these things. Mr. Steve, what do you make of Alex having had the opportunity to observe him in court for a couple of weeks now? Um, you know, I don't, being able to judge a man at just seeing him and not seeing how he interacted over a long period of time. But hearing people discuss that he was a Tasmanian devil and he had, that he would show up late in the day and that he had everything organized as far as when he committed himself to doing certain things and that people relied upon him, which is more of an organized individual. And so he's highly organized. And I would suspect anyone that is highly organized that would commit a case of homicide, that those homicides would be carried out in some organized manner to give himself an alibi or an out, and that he would have, with the training he has, been able to come up with something that would have the potential of him getting away with this. And there is a possibility of that. And but as far as what he is thinking, his personality, are the tears real or not? The tears could be real for himself. They may not have anything to do with Maggie or Paul. He may be crying due to self-pity, or that I'm no longer going to be free because I can't overcome this evidence. So, are the tears real or not? And if the tears are real, are they for Maggie and Paul, or are they for Alex? Uh, I'm not. Yes, sir, you are, but you are bright, sir. Don't short sell yourself. But wondering why some of these financial victims did not come forward earlier, since the stealing had been going on for 10 years. They may not realize the full amount of what they recovered. They may have been trusting in their attorney, in that the attorney says, this is the distribution. This is how much you get. This is how much we get here. And this, I don't know. But you would think that if someone had $1 million recovery and the attorney got 30%, that they would be able to figure those numbers out. Let's see here. Alpaca Renee crying real tears because what his Sally is going to do when he goes away. There's some bad people. He's not the baddest person. I guarantee when if he's found and convicted of these crimes, if he goes to prison, he will realize that he's not the bad man on the block. All righty, guys. Well, I got caught up. Anybody got any more questions? I hope I didn't miss too many people tonight. And this here is extremely true. Hold on here. Jeff. A messy person doesn't mean they aren't organized in other aspects. As my dad used to say, a doctor may be smart enough to perform heart surgery, yet doesn't know they can all change a tire, or doesn't mean they can all change a tire. Exactly. Yeah. Kathleen Harris. Jeff, my father used to call them educated idiots. I had a father like that. My father. Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Hilarious. Absolutely. I'm a second generation law enforcement. But, man, my father had a tongue like a knife. Man, he'd cut you to your soul. My father, there's a common saying about people that if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. And my father told me that numerous times in my life, that if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. And then later on, and I get tickled every time I think about it, because it didn't hit me at the time when he made this statement a few years before his death, that he looked at me, he said, you're about the toughest man I've ever met. And so I don't know exactly what he meant by that, and because it didn't hit me at that time. But just out of nowhere, he looked at me and said, you're about the toughest man I ever met. Oh, oh, goodness. All right. Let's see here. What we got here. The way the witness testimonies are being presented, it seems to be not going in a strategic timeline. No, it's very confusing. We go from forensics to banking to GSR. Yes, I wish it was a little bit more organized. I absolutely do. And more than likely it is that there has to be some type of scheduling issues with the witnesses. And Triple S, you're correct. I believe that anyone with federal level, and I wish that was a little bit more organized, be easier to follow. But anyway, guys, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I'm going to get to bed. I've got a full day of processing luminol and get some lab work done. And hopefully I can get everything organized, and we have a pretty good show tonight. And look forward to seeing y'all tonight. And if you like the video, share it with someone, like it, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in just a few hours. Stay safe out there, guys. Thank y'all for being here tonight.